Join us each week for some booze-free banter about life without booze.
If you're entertaining the idea of cutting back your booze by a day, a week, a month, or for the rest of your life, we would love for you to tune in.
Buckle up and come along for a ride that may just change your life. Please note that some of the conversations we have may be triggering. Please reach out to your local support service in Australia. That's Lifeline 131114. Psst. Hey, Maso.
Psst. Hey, Breeza.
Did you know that Altina is made differently to other non-alcoholic wines?
I did not know this.
Check this out. Most are made from non-alcoholized wine with concentrated grape juice added. Altina is built from botanicals and contains no added sugar.
Oh, I love this so much.
They have thought of everything.
They really have. I love you, Altina.
And the taste, oh my God.
I can't, like, even the smell when you open that bottle, it's just, and delicious. You can tell it's not sugary. It doesn't leave you with that too much sugar hangover. It actually doesn't at all. If you
haven't tried Altina, get your hot little hands on Altina via their website or look them up on Instagram.
Oh, get it in your life.
Hey everybody, Eric here, your friendly neighborhood podcast producer, with a reminder that Altina has given everybody a discount code for 10% off everything on their site. So use code BFB10 on altinadrinks.com. Browse their collection. Again, no added sugar, natural and native ingredients, Australian made and owned. And of course, if you stock up, best part is free shipping over $80. Don't forget, code BFB10, 10% off altinadrinks.com.
Breeza!
Maso!
Hello, mate.
How you going?
Yeah, I'm really good. Oh, let's talk about who we had on today.
Oh, my gosh. We have had our number one ticket holder, Katie Minogue.
Kate Minogue in the house.
Now, Katie is a high flyer, isn't she? She's a principal lawyer of a national firm. That's a big deal. She's
a really fancy pants.
Really fancy pants. And you know what? She doesn't let the team down in this episode. I only know Katie through DMs, don't we? Katie will always leave us a DM on a Monday.
Yep, Monday musing.
Calls it a Monday musing about our podcast that we've dropped for that week. So she always gives us her feedback. Love it. She's been on board since, episode 6, I think. She bounced into our DMs.
Yep, she binged the first.
And she binged. And I love Katie's range of vocabulary. She's got just all these words.
Doesn't she? She's just so articulate. I feel so dumb actually about her.
She doesn't let the team down. She brings out some big words, but she tells her story in such a beautiful, humble way.
Just so relatable. Like, I wish she was around for me, that long ago. And she's going to resonate with so many.
Absolutely. I was nodding the whole way through this potty going, yep, that's what I was like. That's what I was like. Can relate.
Yeah. She's awesome. She's brilliant. We love her.
What do you reckon? Should we get amongst it?
Do it. Let's go. Katie Minogue.
Okay. A big warm welcome to our number one ticket holder, Katie Minogue. Welcome, Katie.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome, Katie. Welcome.
We are so happy to meet you semi-IRL. We are on screens, obviously, at the moment, but normally we have our relationship's been over voices, over Instagram, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, really, I just slid into your DMs after about, I think it was episode 4 or 5 that I discovered you and did a massive back listen of the first 4 eps, and then just became a bit of an Insta stalker and would, I remember the first one, I think I typed a little message, and Maso, you sent me a voicey when I was in the supermarket, and I sent you a voicey back in the dairy aisle, and the rest is history. Little voices every week since I just, as you said, number one ticket holder. I'm just a massive fan.
We love that. We love your Monday musings that have turned into Tuesday tidings.
Yeah. My little reflections on the potty each week. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, welcome, Katie. But you've heard the show, you know how it rolls. We're going to dive straight into shame. So before we do, let's have a bevy. Let's read a wishel.
Wishel. That's a
wishel.
One, so.
What are we all drinking today, girlies? What are we into?
I'm on the Altina, La Vie in Rose, and I'm going to pour it into a glass and add some little of their garnishes.
Yes. Do you know what I've actually failed to do is put the garnish in the ice, frozen.
Me too.
Yes, I forget.
that.
So we'll do that next time. And can I just tell you, just on that, Bevy, they changed formula ingredients is next level. I'm like gone nuts on the new formula. I'm loving it. What have you got, Katie?
I've got and for all the listeners, we are recording at 9 o'clock in the morning. I say it's never too early to have an alcohol-free beer.
Yeah.
But I've got a sober finger lime cerveza. It's quite a refreshing drop, but I just love sober. I love their beautiful Indigenous ingredients and their social mission. So if you haven't heard of them or seen them, get around them, give them a follow on Instagram. They are doing some amazing stuff in the space.
Yeah, good stuff. And I'm hopping into the good cocktail Cosmo. Yes, getting a bit of that. It's gluten-free. You can get it in Supers. And they gifted this to us as well, so thank you. All right, Katie, over to you. Hit us with your shame story. Let's go. You gotta have shame on your name. Shame on your
name. Well, don't you think it's a bit like what to withdraw from the bank of shame stories? I feel like you guys are like me. We're millionaires in the bank of shame stories, and it's just a question of what withdrawal you're going to make. Look, there's so many options, but I decided and I know you've touched on the theme a few times before, but travel is where I'm going to pull mine from. So I did a gap year in Vietnam teaching English straight after school. So I'm rocking back a few years now, a good 18 or so years, but I was wild and free in Vietnam, and we were out one night. On the dance floor, lots of drinks, pretty drunk, and we would just get motorcycle taxis everywhere. That was just because we'd been living there 6 months. It was the way to get around. You want to go back to the hotel, you just jump on the back of a motorcycle taxi. So I went to do that, but then just, got the munchies, as you do when you've had a big night on the D floor and you've been knocking back the mojitos as it was then. So I asked this motorcycle driver, who I didn't even know, to take me for some noodles. So it was actually great. He drove me. I mean, again, you reflect on this, don't you, and go, that probably wasn't the safest thing to do. Jump on the back of a motorcycle of someone you didn't know in a completely foreign country and ask them to take you for a bowl of noodle soup. But he was delightful. Went and had my bowl of noodle soup and probably garbled at him in my drunken babble. But it was monsoon season. So he then went to take me back to the hotel, and the downpour started. And it was sort of 2 or 3 in the morning. He turns around to say something to me and loses control of the bike. Oh. The bike sort of goes up on its hind wheel. He gets thrown off on one side. I get thrown off on the other side. And it was just this slow motion movie moment of like the bike just wobbling in the air. Was it going to fall on his side? Was it going to fall on my side? Of course, it fell on my side, landed on my ankle. And thankfully the beer blanket was definitely numbing some of that pain, but I was, in a lot of pain. He, I think, and again, understandably, probably was really worried about getting in trouble. So he kept saying, no, we won't call, we won't call an ambulance. Don't get in a taxi. I'll get my mate to come and pick you up. So there I was, like, in a fit in the gutter, waiting for his mate to come and pick us up. Eventually, I just crawled into a taxi, got back to the hotel. My good mate, who I was sharing a room with, had done very well for herself and picked up that night. So she can come back to the hotel room. So it was just me on my lonesome, commando crawling to the toilet if I needed to go because I couldn't get up on my foot. And the next day, got taken to the hospital, funnily enough, on the back of another motorbike, because it was just how we got round. But got taken to the hospital. It was a public hospital, and I guess that's where it just gets a bit icky in that, I didn't know what was going on, but no one there could speak any English. I got sort of lumped on a bed, and there was a really sick baby on one side and a very, malnourished old man on the other side of me, and I just thought, this isn't right. Like, I'm this, privileged white Westerner taking up a hospital bed in this very, under-resourced area. I shouldn't be, because, I wanted to go and get a bowl of noodles because I was a bit pissed. This isn't right. So, eventually they took me into the X-ray room, did an X-ray, flapped it around at me. No one could speak English and tell me that it was broken. So I didn't know what was going on. And then the next thing, they wheel me into the plaster room and start slapping plaster of Paris on my leg. And that's how I worked out it was broken. I ended up with a plaster cast on my leg. So then I spent the next, 6 weeks traipsing around Vietnam in rainy season on crutches with a big plaster boot on my leg. But, as you guys say, wouldn't have happened if I wasn't hammered.
Oh, mate, that's a big one. That is a big one. You had that shame on you for 6 weeks as well, essentially looking at it.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And I think, that probably planted the seed for me that I sometimes this relationship with alcohol and misuse of alcohol can be a very sort of privileged problem, a very middle-class problem. It's certainly that baggage that comes with, there are a lot of people dealing with a lot of tough things in the world. Maybe I should just check myself a bit in terms of my privilege and, the fact that I'm willing to be so reckless in these sort of scenarios. But obviously it took me another 18 years to do something proper about it. So,
but you're here now. You're here now.
Yeah.
I was just going to add to that, Katie. I can imagine if there's any healthcare professionals listening, that they'd be probably nodding, going, "Yes, we do get resources taken up by injuries caused through alcohol."
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's rewind the tape, shall we? Katie, you were a teenager in the 90s. What a time to be alive. Katie,
what a time.
I was going to say Katie Minogue, Kylie Minogue. She was big back then. But let's talk about when you first had your first drink of alcohol and how your relationship with booze evolved from there.
Yeah. So I think, like so many, the teenage years were when I started drinking. At sort of 15, 16, discovered passion pop at the tram stop with my mates. Drink of choice, $3 I reckon it was.
I know, yeah.
Drink of choice for the women of the 90s, young women of the 90s. And also just that how you'd get people to buy you drinks. I just remember me and my mates lurking outside bottle shops waiting for who to approach to, slip them a 20 so they could go in and buy us a 6-pack of Stollies. It was that's how it all started. There is one, and at this sort of, I know, Maso, you sort of talked about thinking back on the impact it had on your parents, and that really made me reflect because, my God, I put them through torture. And I'm an only child too, so I think there wasn't anywhere else to focus, and I was absolutely running amok. The very first time so I'd been drinking probably about 6 months when I was 15 or 16, but they didn't know because I'd go out and sneak out and do it on the sly. The very first time they had to find out was by my mum waking up on a Sunday morning to an answering machine message on the answering machine. That's how you know it's the 90s, right? So there's an answering machine message. But anyway, presses play on the answering machine and gets this, hello, Christine. It's Senior Constable Smith from Melbourne City Police calling. I've got your daughter here at Flinders Street Station. She's vomited all over the station platform. She's with her friends. They're going to take her home now, but just sort of let you know. So, and then they snuck me home, and that's how my mum discovered I was drinking. Awful. So the 20s, went to uni, and it was just a big party culture. I did rowing for a while at a reasonably high level, and that was very much when you're in the on season, you don't drink, you're training 10 times a week. It's extreme. Then in the off season, you are absolutely off the leash. And we would party so hard, and uni was the same. I lived in this house, a share house that was the party house, and I never wanted anyone to leave. I always wanted that party just to keep going. I always wanted everyone to stay and keep drinking. But it had orange shag pile carpet. It had green and orange paisley print felt wallpaper. It was like full 70s pad. The real estate agent once told us, you've got to get that carpet cleaned. We got the steam cleaner in and we all went upstairs while he steam cleaned the shag pile carpet down the bottom, and he called us down from upstairs. He's like, oi, girls, come down, have a look at this. And he says, you know, there's the water thing at the top of the steam where it whirls all the water around when it's steaming the carpet. He points to the water, which was full brown. And he's like, I've been steam cleaning carpets for 25 years. I've never seen water this colour. That's how filthy that house was. But, yeah, uni was a great time. And I think it was when I started work that things got a bit serious, and I started work as a young lawyer. I was really wanting to prove myself. I was really busting a gut at work, which then equated to really blowing off steam on the weekend. And it was still that kind of work hard, play hard culture, and that way I'd probably lived my whole life to date, which was, you know, really go hard at whatever I was doing and then need that outlet, need that blow off steam on the weekend. And I just wasn't very good at keeping a lid on it. And then I guess it came to 2017 and I'd been working as a lawyer for a while, and I moved regionally with my partner to run a regional practice. That was a really tough year for me. The work was really hard. It was very long hours. It was a huge jump in responsibility for me. And I really felt like I'd bitten off more than I can chew. And I was, you know, a duck looking okay above water probably, but frantically paddling underneath. And being isolated from friends and family as well was a big thing. And I think that's probably when I really started using booze as a Band-Aid. That's when it went from being, you know, a party, good time, blowing off steam, just going gangbusters thing, to something I then started to use to make myself feel better when I was feeling crap. And I think once you've done that, it's very hard to go back from. You don't unlearn that once you've learnt it, once it becomes a bit of a medication or a Band-Aid. So I guess that probably also signalled to me the first time that I realised my relationship with booze had to change. And then it was over the next couple of years, I guess, until now that I've toed and froed with it. You know, we came back to Melbourne. I've had 2 kids. They're now 1 and 3. So I had time off drinking when I was pregnant, have returned to work full time between kids, and have sort of, you know, been drinking on and off, I guess, for the last 5 years, but just increasing that level of questioning whether it's right for me. Periods where it's been okay and I've enjoyed it, periods where it served me much less and I've definitely used it as a crutch, but ultimately coming to the conclusion at the end of last year that my life is just simpler and easier and better without it.
Touche. Touche. Well, you're a woman of our own heart, Katie. You're an all or nothing girl. So when we're talking all or nothing, what did all look like when it came to drinking? And that's including work and stress. And tell us the all. Yeah,
it's funny you say that. My year 10 rowing coach picked it, and I've never forgotten this line because he put it in a letter to me at the end of the season, and it's always stuck to me because I thought it's just encapsulated not just me but so many women like us in these sort of scenarios. But it said Katie Minogue has 2 speeds, full on or off. And I've always thought, yep, that's pretty much it. And I am like that with everything I do. But I think a lot of professional women are. And I also think that you've got to take the good with the bad. Like, being full on is also the reason why, you know, many women are successful. That's the good stuff comes being full on too. It's why you throw yourself into your work and your passions, and you don't just, you know, punch on and punch off with a 9-to-5 job. You go after things and you don't let things go. And I think that approach can produce amazing results in areas of your life, and sometimes it can be a bit destructive and detrimental, and you've just got to be able to manage those bits and channel it towards the good. But I think, yeah, the full on, when it was full on, was really like the week was always in overdrive. So pre-kids, like, I get up before 5, I when I was living regionally, I'd do CrossFit. I'd often do 1 to 2 hours at the gym in the morning, like get to work before 8, do these sort of epic, long, stressful days. Lawyering is a really stressful job. I was managing people, so that's always stressful when you've got a team and you're trying to basically remain calm in the face of this constant shitstorm, really. Then I'd go home, I'd maybe smash a bit of food in my face, and then I'd log back on the emails and try and knock over what I could before collapsing into bed at night. And obviously that meant, to me now, I didn't really recognise it at the time, that left me absolutely shattered on a Friday night. Like I would get to Friday night and I was literally crawling to the finish line. And of course, what was waiting for me at the end of the week was booze, whatever that was, nice craft beer or a bottle of lovely Riesling, but that booze was giving me the cuddle to say it's okay. You're feeling awful, but I'm going to make you feel better. And because there was such a build-up of all of that over the course of the week, it was a bit like a dam wall. And when that dam wall broke on a Friday night, I wasn't just having one drink and kicking my heels up and having a nice early night. Now I was ripping the lid off. And then that would just torpedo my whole weekend. So, Saturday morning I'd feel crap and just kind of hang out until I could have another drink on Saturday afternoon. And Sunday, you get that Sunday afternoon dread building up in the pit of your stomach because you've got the anxiety build up from drinking. You've got to go back to work on the Monday. And it just, you don't want to, but it's going to be just as full on as the week before. And it's just, you quoted that. I've written this down, Maso, because you quoted it in episode 6. How's that for number 1 ticket holder? I can in episode 6. You quoted the stat that 80% of Beyond Blue calls are women on their way to work. That stuck with me massively.
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely extraordinary. And I guess post-kids, it looked similar, just replace probably the long gym sessions with, early morning feeds, and that, period before logging back onto the laptop at night was the dinner, bath and bed chaos. And when with kids in the mix, I was kind of just wanting to get them into bed so I could have that glass of wine. It was just the when can this end so that my time can start. And just the beauty of not drinking is what I've realised is that is my time. My time with my kids is my precious time, and that chaos is fine. The beautiful chaos of life is not something to get through and then escape from. It's something to sit in the middle of and embrace and sink into and enjoy.
I keep actually seeing in the last few weeks, I keep seeing either with books I'm reading or just on social media, life is messy.
Mm-hmm.
Life is messy.
Yeah.
Who has a I don't know anyone that has a decluttered, perfect, beautiful life.
Yeah.
Life is messy and you roll with the punches.
Yeah.
And now we're doing it alcohol free, which is even better.
100%.
And it does make it easier to it's so much easier to manage when you're alcohol free.
As we say, life will never be perfect and life isn't perfect, but I feel like when booze is removed, you can handle things a little bit easier. You can work through things a little bit easier. So tell us, Katie, you ditched the booze. Was it New Year's Eve? New Year's Day you ditched the booze?
No, end of November.
End of November 2021. Awesome. So you mentioned before about, in 2017 you were sort of looking at your relationship with booze. Have you had any bouts of sobriety before the end of last year?
Yeah, so I have been experimenting with it, and saying that I wish I could have thought of it at the time as experimenting. When I look at it now, I think, I'm so comfortable in my alcohol-free path now, and I know this is it forever for me, and I'm happier than I've ever been. In those previous times where I've tried it and then gone back to drinking, I've thought I was a failure. I've beaten myself up. I've thought I was really weak. Which is such a shame, because what I can very clearly see now is that they were all building blocks. They were experiments. Every time I would learn something new, and every time I did it again, I was one step further along the path than I was prior. So But all of those periods, I think once I kind of made that click when I was in regional and thought this isn't helping me. I read this Naked Mind, which is such a game changer for so many people. It just totally flips on its head how you think about alcohol. I obviously, when I was pregnant and having babies and breastfeeding, I would have patches where, I wasn't drinking at all, or, just very few drinks. But I just still couldn't see a life without booze. It felt like such a large leap to think I would never drink again, or that, I could do the wedding without booze, or the, whatever it is, that those firsts, the holiday without booze, you've got all those things. You're like, I'm fine not drinking as long as I just could drink at that one thing.
Yeah.
That was a very hard thing for me to flip. But I think probably lockdowns and COVID's really sealed the deal for me. I think like the last couple of years I haven't been drinking. Again, I've had young kids and a lot of time pregnant and breastfeeding. I haven't been drinking crazy amounts, but whatever I drink, it always reflects the state of mind that I'm in. So in those times during COVID when things have been really hard, even if I'm not drinking much, it's just made it that much harder. And if I've been feeling flat, low, angry, irritated, I'm just that much more flat, low, angry, irritated when I'm drinking. And then I realised you take it away and you actually just increase your strength and your ability to deal with those things. So I think each time was definitely building on the time before until I got to November last year, and I read Sarah Rusbatch. So she wrote this article on Mamma Mia. She's called a grey area drinking coach. So she read this article about what grey area drinking was, which just really resonated with me because we're so used to this dichotomy of you're a park bench drunk and you go to AA, or you can have a couple of drinks and you can handle it. And until probably the last couple of years, there's been no acknowledgement that there's this whole grey area in between of, varying relationships with alcohol and what it means for people, and the fact that you can make a decision to give it up, even though you can have perfectly normal nights with it, or even though you can really love the memories that and know that it's given you some really fun times, or that you can know that it's just a bit of a handbrake on your life. It's just not allowing you to be the very best you can be and reach your fullest potential. And make the decision just to say, I don't need it in my life anymore. I don't want it in my life. And that doesn't mean anything about whether I'm an addict or I'm a, someone who is an alcoholic and all these kind of labels and terms. It just means I'm making a choice for my life that's right for me. That kind of just opened up a whole world of that idea to me, which I thought, yes, that's it. That's what I want to do. I've got a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old. I work full time as a lawyer. I can't live with a handbrake on right now. I just don't have the space for it. So let's take the handbrake off and haven't looked back.
Can we all please rise? Can we all give you a standing ovation for that? Oh, you have summed that up so beautifully, Katie. And I thought the little golden nugget in there as well was talking about your time off the booze as an experiment. And you talked about how, and I know lots of us, I've done it, and I'm sure many of our listeners, they've gone, righto, I'm giving up the gas. First day off the gas, by the end of the day, you're on the booze again, and it comes with such shame and guilt. And I just think that's such an important message to everyone. It's okay to dip your toe in and out. It's been in our lives for so long, booze. It's hard to let it go. But like you said, you realise that it's not serving you. So the longer in between drinks gets longer, like Hayley Vernon spoke about as well. Which brings me, you spoke about Annie Grace being a book and the article from Mamma Mia. So tell us what's different this time. What tools are you using? What have you brought into your world now that you found really helpful?
Is this the part where I mention you guys?
Yep, it's great segue.
If you have to.
Tongue in cheek, but it's true. Like that, discovering you guys happened at about the same time. So I think finding this community of people of all different, but particularly you guys, I like listened to your podcast and I was like, I feel like they're just like me. And I know that so many people listen to your podcast and relate to you so much, but like how awesome that it's not, serious people sermonizing about the evils of alcohol. And again, that's probably like 4 years ago, all that was out there. It's just like a couple of great chicks having a band about life without alcohol and, the funny things that they did while they were on the gas and how great life is now without it. Like, that's just been awesome. And then sort of tapping into this Instagram community where there are all of these wonderful accounts, Amy Armstrong from Dry But Wet and all she's doing in the space, and, Jason and Andy with Etch Sparkling, and there's just this wonderful little community out there of alcohol-free drinks and bringing those into the space, alternatives to drinking, but just celebrating what life. Joe and
Loz,
thank you, from Smug AF Cocktails. Yeah, just this little world out there. The sense of community has been really awesome because I feel like I've really been able to tap into that. And I think that the other tool has probably really been understanding the neuroscience, which very much speaks to me. I've got that kind of, someone tells me to do something, I need to know the why. What are all the working parts? Like, I'm probably the one that you give me the Lego car and I'll pull it apart to see where all the bits that make the car go are. Like, I can't just, send the car off. I've got to know why the car is going where it's going. But understand, this is where Sarah Rusbatch was massive and did her 30-day program in Jan, which was she just gets a bunch of great guest speakers in that have all sorts of areas of knowledge and expertise. But in particular, this idea in the neuroscience that's helped me so much is about resetting our dopamine levels. Like, when we've been drinking, all we are doing is flooding our brain with dopamine. And dopamine is this naturally occurring feel-good chemical. And there's all sorts of different, there's dopamine and there's GABA and there's serotonin. They do all different things. But essentially, drinking alcohol is flooding our brain with these feel-good chemicals, which is why we love it. And when we have one, we want another one and then another one. And it's why we crave it. Because, of course, our brain wants, I really want to feel that good again. But when we're coming off it, so when that alcohol is wearing out of our system, those levels are trying to recalibrate themselves, so they dip back down again and go into starvation, and that's why we crave the next one. And that might not be craving alcohol every day. That might be, during the week doing whatever you're doing, but hanging out for that Friday night drink. And then over the weekend, you get that dip and that peak as you drink, and then it wears off and then you have another drink. It doesn't have to be everyday drinking. But the thing is, when you're full, surges and starvation, your brain isn't getting natural good dopamine that you have to work for, because you're artificially flooding it with these extreme amounts. So the little things like a beautiful cup of tea and a book or a bath, I remember, and you guys were probably the same, when you're drinking and you think, I really want to cut back on drinking, or I don't want to drink as much, and you read these articles saying, 5 things to do to cut back on alcohol and manage your drinking. It's like, have a nice bath, have 2 squares of dark chocolate, go for a walk. I'm like, that's like, are you kidding me? Like, that would not even touch the sides. What a ridiculous suggestion, But the funny thing is, when you reset and I've heard it referred to as dopamine fasting. So when you cut the alcohol out, and often that first 30-day period is quite difficult because your brain is potentially craving it and resetting itself. But once it's reset itself to those normal, even levels, you do actually get this amazing, like the idea of booking a cup of tea now, that gives me immense pleasure. Like it's those little things, again, really do give you that pleasure, but it's because, you know, understanding neuroscience behind that, because you've reset your levels to what they should be and you're not flooding them with artificial substances. You're just getting little hits with really good stuff and responding to it. That was really big for me.
It is fascinating, isn't it, the neuroscience behind it. Have you read Alcohol Explained, Katie? You will froth over that book.
Yeah. So I've heard William Porter talk. I haven't actually. I've read bits and pieces, but I haven't read the whole book. But yeah, I have heard him talk.
Get a cup of tea and grab that book. You'll get some serious dopamine hits in. That book is just an incredible resource for anyone who wants to do a bit of a deep dive into alcohol. It literally goes by its title, Alcohol Explained. It's an incredible book, and we always recommend it. But let's talk about, because I know you are a big fan, Katie, of alcohol-free drinks, and your Instagram account is Cup of Clarity, and I actually love looking at reviews. I review alcohol-free drinks also, but it's good to see other people's opinions of them. So let's talk about alcohol-free drinks. How have you found them, and what ones can you recommend?
Well, I reckon it really probably is the difference this time between it sticking and not. In the past, they just haven't. I actually remember, it would have been about 2016, and I did a Feb fast. And I remember, I think I did Feb fast sugar as well as Feb fast alcohol. Again, stupid. I know.
All or nothing.
Yeah.
20, exactly, all or nothing. 28 days of just white knuckling. I remember sitting on the couch with a can of Sozzled, which was the alcohol. It was a cheapo alcohol-free beer you got from the supermarket, about the only thing on the shelf at that time, and a bar of sugar-free chocolate. And I was just so depressed about life. But to see from where it's come then to where it is now, it's incredible. And I think particularly, so I started at the end of November and obviously launched into the December and Christmas period, and we'd just come out of lockdown at that time as well. So probably could not have picked a more challenging time to go alcohol-free. All of a sudden there were all of these social engagements during December because we were finally out of lockdown. There was Christmas. But they helped me be prepared. So I came to Christmas lunch at Mum and Dad's, and that normally would have been such a temptation. My dad's a big wino. He'd pulled a beautiful, 20-year-old Shiraz out of the cellar for Christmas lunch, which is just, my big weak point. But I came with my 2 little Liars bottles to make a Liars cocktail. I had a bottle of rosé, I think it was the Gießen alcohol-free rosé for lunch, and then I had an alcohol-free chocolate stout to have with my Chrissy Pud. So I literally had my 3 courses of drinks lined up, and that was what totally helped me not be tempted, because I wasn't just sipping sparkling water thinking about what I was missing out. It's allows you to have something special when other people are having special drinks too. There is ritual in, and you guys probably find this too. I definitely noticed that Friday night, really needing and craving that wine down, the ice cold bottle out of the fridge, the sound of the crack of the seal as you crack the lid off, the beautiful clean wine glass out of the cupboard, the glug, glug, glug sound as it gets poured into the glass. Like that sounds, the smell, the feel of the ice cold, that's all the ritual. And that all fires up the dopamine, just about as much as the real deal drink does. So replacing the ritual can go a huge way to just stopping, the craving, or feeling not feeling a craving, because you've got something there that's special and that replaces it, and that lets your brain feel the same feelings of calmness and relaxation and reward. The other thing I would say about them is, I think, again, with what you're doing, Breeza is awesome in the space, and I'm really pumped to see where wetting your whistle in the workplace goes, because I think that's a big thing for me, working in, I guess, a big national firm, and We do some amazing things at my firm in terms of wellness and looking after employees as their whole selves. But alcohol isn't something that we've really explored yet. And I think my firm has a very high young female cohort, and we've got a very culturally diverse workforce. So we've got a lot of people who don't drink because they're pregnant or breastfeeding, and we've got a whole lot of people who don't drink for cultural reasons. So we've got to make sure we're catering for those people and that we're offering options, and it's not just booze or water or Coke. We've got some really special drinks out there that we could really, create a bit of momentum and spread the love, I think. So it's exciting. It's exciting to see.
Love that. Yes. So you've educated yourself. You love knowing how things work. And now that you know that and you've educated yourself on alcohol, how do you feel about alcohol now?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I actually was out at Southbank last night for a dinner and a show with my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law, and I was walking along and just looking at people sitting in pubs, having a beer or a wine, and just being so, I guess, curiously, I feel quite removed from it now. Like you sort of feel a bit neutral and dispassionate. I certainly don't crave it anymore. And I'm just, you sort of look at people drinking and you think, are you good with just having one drink? And if so, bloody good on you. And I never had that, but that is awesome. And I'm so glad that you can, enjoy just one glass and then be done. Or, is someone over there really masking a bit of an issue and they're not happy with their alcohol? Everyone's got a story. And alcohol is just one part of that story. So I won't go back to drinking. I'm definitely done, and my life is just in the last 4 months has become so much better that I just don't have any sense that I will ever need to go back to it. And I think, again, because I've had those prior, it took me, it's probably the last 5 years that I've just gradually broken up. It's the toxic ex-boyfriend thing, isn't it? Like I've just gradually broken up with the ex-boyfriend. And that doesn't mean I can't reflect with fondness on the good times that we had. And it doesn't mean that I didn't need it at certain times to get through certain parts of my life and that it served a purpose at those times. But I just know that it's not serving me anymore, and that I don't need it in my life. But that just feels really liberating, I guess. But equally, it's wonderful to know that people can just have a drink and enjoy it. As I said, my dad's a big wino. He's got a cellar full of wine. I think he always wanted to hand that on to me when he goes on. Now he knows I'll just, flog it at the wine auction rooms and get the cash.
I think it's great, Katie, that you have such a non-judgmental view, obviously, of other people drinking. Because I've recently felt discriminated for not drinking. Someone said to me, they were telling a story about being out at a bar, and he was like, "Oh, but you're not into that stuff anymore." And I'm like, hang on a minute. Like I was like, just because I don't drink doesn't mean I don't like hanging out at bars. I love socializing. I just socialize without alcohol these days. So, and I'm like, what am I, 9 months into my sobriety, and it's only been recently that I have started feeling a little bit discriminated. So I'm just working through those situations, I suppose, at the moment. But let's move on to something really positive. Tell us about the benefits. You've touched on a couple of benefits, but give us all the whole benefits of what you've been experiencing since you have ditched the booze.
I reckon the biggest thing is probably just a calmness and an evenness of my mood. The anxiety is gone. I've always thought of myself as a pretty laid back person, but there was definite anxiety going on around, you wake up at 3, if you've had a few too many drinks, you wake up at 3 a.m. and as it passes out of your body and you get that kind of anxious feeling, which is awful, leaving you unsettled during the day. And then, I think with young kids too, certainly it was the mental chatter. Again, as I said, I haven't drank huge amounts over the last sort of 4 or 5 years because I've been in that young kid space. But it's the mental noise around, should I drink tonight? Should I not drink tonight? If I do drink tonight, am I going to have 1 drink, or am I going to have 2 drinks, or am I going to have 3 drinks? I've had 2 drinks, but I said I was going to have 1 drink. Is that really bad? And should I just have a 3rd drink because I've broken the seal now anyway? And I've got to breastfeed in 4 hours. So is it going to be out of my system before then? And then if I've drunk tonight, does that mean I can't drink tomorrow night? Or maybe I should just, have 2 nights in a row, but then the 2 nights in a row is a little like.
Are you in my head? Are you in my head right now? And even planning what you're going to eat as well. Did you used to do that? What you're going to eat and when you're going to eat it, and what you're going to drink, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah, just the noise. So much noise and so much brain space that is now freed up for other thoughts. And I think that's allowed me to go on this amazing sort of journey of self-discovery, because 1, that brain space is freed up, and 2, you certainly feel like if I can do this, anything's possible. Like, what can't I do, right? Like, I don't know if you guys feel like that, but I kind of feel like this one thing that's felt like a big sort of crutch in my life, a big thing that I never imagined could possibly not be part of my life, because it was such a big part of who I told myself, not who I was, but who I told myself I was. And that's a piece that you guys have picked up on before, those stories that we tell ourselves. And, I think humans need stories and need a narrative to make sense of things. It's how we operate. But we can tell ourselves some fibs about who we are and what we need. We can tell ourselves that we couldn't possibly do something without drinking, or we need it to relax, or that we deserve it, or that we're not strong enough to stop, or that we're not fun without it. All those sort of things, they're just stories. And I think once you realise none of that's necessarily true, or at age 36, I can change who I am and how I'm perceived by other people. The liberation that comes with that, but also what that opens up for how I think about myself. Like I could be anything, do anything. So, just experimenting with other things in my life, eating more healthy and exercising more consistently, and not exercising for punishment, but exercising for joy. It's amazing. And I think that thing I said before about just releasing the handbrake, you've got this kind of increase in your potential because the handbrake's not on. That just feels a little bit exciting that there's so many possibilities. And then just the quality of the time that you have with your kids. I know you've mentioned that, both of you have mentioned that, and you with your steppies, Maso, and you with your kiddos, Breeza. But I just love, even when they are driving me mad, I kind of love that now. I'm not trying to grit my teeth through it, but because I'm so much more zen and so much more calm, I just am enjoying them in all their mad tantruming chaos.
That is brilliant. Oh, I just want to bottle you, Katie.
No, I want to bottle you guys, but I do have, my bottle is your weekly potty, so we got you in a bottle.
Fletcher's just joined us.
Hello, doggo.
Doggo. Before we wrap it up and get into the quiz master, I just had another question, Katie. What's friends and family? Have you had pushback? Have you influence? Are you an influencer? Are you an AF influencer? Tell us what's the vibe being from everyone. And does hubby drink?
He does, but take it or leave it drinker. Good on him. So
that guy.
Who are these people?
And that's interesting too, because I think over the years he's very much struggled to understand my relationship with alcohol. He's very much struggled to understand why I have all these sort of mental battles about it and all the mental noise, because he's like, well, if you've just had 2 and that's enough, then just don't have any more. Like, yeah, sure. I mean, it's that simple, right? But yeah, so he's all good and he's just happy if I'm happy. I think that what he probably benefits from, as much as, the drinking, when I was drinking, it was more about what was going on in my head than what was going on for him. But it's probably the next day me just being less crabby, less irritable, you know, less moody, I'm sure he reaps the benefits of that. And, yeah, the rest of my family, I think, again, because it's been this kind of process over the last 5 years, that, like, they're a bit used to it. They're like, are you drinking at the moment or not? I can't keep it. You know? Like, well, sometimes you might. So they just roll with it, yeah.
Oh, I love that. So you know that I ask a little random question at the end, a little quizzy. I couldn't establish, do you love cooking?
Yeah, I like baking stuff.
Okay. Well, how do you feel about the 3-second rule? If something dropped on the floor, would you pick it up?
3 is way too short. You need a lot longer than 3. I think it's like maybe a 30-minute rule, depending on who's crawling around on the floor.
Yeah, so that's tick. You love hiking, and you quite often will send in your little hashtag bid with your little hike. Are you tying your knots on your boots, single or double knot?
Double, always a double.
Double, you double up.
Single? No, man.
I'm a single. I don't know why, because I always get caught out when I'm in the gym. I'm like, bloody shoelaces, but I'm always single.
Oh, you'd be that person behind me on the hike where you'd be stopping to tie up your shoelaces, and I'd be like, why don't you just bloody do a double knot?
Never. Yeah. And you rowing career, because you're elite. You're at elite level rowing, weren't you? Now, this is a bit controversial. Did you ever lay down Sally?
She was actually, so I'm just caveat. I wasn't, like, I was moderately good. Elite might be pushing it. I've probably used that tag on myself to, like, boost myself up a bit. But look, I did a couple of years where I trained semi-seriously at a club level, which is still intense, don't get me wrong.
Don't play it down. We're here for it. Own it.
She was, so my year 9 rowing coach was in the boat with her when it happened.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know, it's a really hard one. I probably am, like, squarely on the fence. I don't know what to think about it. I don't know really what happened. I don't know if you can ever know what's going on in someone's head. I think the question is probably about the fact that maybe it had happened before, and if they knew it had happened before, did they give her appropriate support, or maybe should she have been selected if they knew it was a risk? I don't know.
So, tricky question.
Controversial, Maso.
No, a bit controversial. But that's it. That's the end of my quiz master.
Oh, very good.
We're not done with you yet, Katie.
No way.
We are going to hear now from you about a text regret.
Text regret. You can't forget.
Text regret. So this is a good one. I'm going to struggle not to laugh with this one. So in my rowing days, I also did rowing coaching, and that was coaching school kids. I loved it very much. Often involved very early starts on weekend mornings, and once a year we would get up on a Sunday morning at like 5, and the whole squad would go down to the Sorrento back beach and do hill sprints, and basically make the kids do hill sprints until they vomited. And that was like part of pre-season training. And I always thought I was superhuman and that I could go out on the lash before these early morning starts and just, it's fine. I'll just get 1 or 2 hours sleep, you know, I'll be right. I'll pick up and I'll go. And this particular morning I was out and I was having a great old time on Chapel Street. I think I was at Revelers, just smashing out some moves to some great 80s tunes there. Anyway, it got to about 2 or 3 in the morning and I was like, I don't think I'm going to be right to, you know, get in the car, certainly not to get in the car, but to get where I needed to get to in a couple of hours. So I was like, I can't go. I'll just put in the text message and let the boss know I can't make it. And I was like, you know, definitely a skinful deep. I'm like, I'll say, I've got to think of something good. Like I'll say I've hurt my back. So I sent this text message basically, I'm really sorry. I've just woken up with a really sore back. I'm not going to be able to make it in the morning. And then I keep going, you know, I'm out and I'm still drinking. I'm like, I better just like back at it. Like, I've really got to make this believable. So I better just send another one. And I'll just say, and so then it gets to 4 o'clock, I send this message to me. Like, I'm just going to try getting in the car and see how I go. I was like, that'll make it a bit more believable. And then like 4:30, I send another one going, I've had to pull over on the side of the road and get out. And then like 4:45, like, I'm lying on the side of the road. I can't move, but it's okay. Dad's coming to pick me up. Like,
a full lie.
but deeper and deeper and deeper.
Oh,
yeah, so funny. Like, he obviously didn't believe it. He obviously totally did it. I was just out and I was pulling a sticky, and he was like,
You didn't pull it off.
You should have just said, I'm not coming.
Oh, did you think at the time this is the best story he's going to buy?
I was like channeling all my dramatic energy. I was like, this is like a 4-part saga, and like I'm really building the dramatic tension here. And like, oh, he thinks I'm coming, but no, I'm not. How could you not believe this? It's too elaborate not to be true.
And it would have been so, that very first text message would have been so obvious to him.
Yes.
That, on the tear. dug a little bit deeper.
oh, that's so good.
It's time for the recommendation of the week.
My reco would be not to be a social media lurker. So one of the biggest things for me, and I talked before about the advantage of community and connection in this space, and that has come about because I have, all my instincts are like, I'm going to seem like, if I reach out and message these guys, I don't know them, they don't know me from a bar of soap, I'm going to sound like a real creep or a stalker or, just super keen Sally, and not, I feel icky about it. But I pushed through it a couple of times. I pushed through it with you. I pushed through it with Andy from Etch Sparkling, and went and chased her down at a market the other day and had a big gas bag to her. Amy Armstrong as well, I've done it. And it is the most amazing inclusive community. Everyone wants to hear from you, wants to engage with you. You're not a creep, you're not a stalker, and that's how you make the connection, is by just being a little bit brave and just reaching out, and that you can make some amazing connections. So, yeah.
What wonderful advice.
I love that.
Same.
Maso and I are probably the extreme. We will slide into anyone's DM any time of the day. Doesn't matter who you are.
Absolute pests.
Oh my goodness, Katie, you have been absolutely brilliant.
My heart is full.
And you know what? At the intro of this, I did say that you would be using big words, because you do use big words, and I love your big words. So thank you for using big words today.
Did I use big words?
Yeah,
I don't know.
You threw one in, and I wrote it down. I can't understand what I wrote. And I don't know the word, but there was a few big words in there. So my heart is full.
Yes.
Heart is full of big words. You have to get the dictionary out.
I really admire people that have got a broad vocabulary. It's something that I wish I had. So I do admire.
I'm with you with that. I get stuck all the time with words. I just go, what's that word again? Just very basic. So, yes, I'm full applause of that as well.
Thank you so much. I know you obviously are a very busy woman, and we have just loved having you on, actually chatting to you in real life. This has been awesome.
It's been amazing, Katie. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for letting me slide into your DMs, for being the voices in my ear every Monday that have just made me feel very much not alone in this space, very much supported, and like I'm part of something bigger. And thank you for letting me come on and share my story with you, but also sharing your own stories over the last couple of weeks. And it's all connection, isn't it? It's all, vulnerability and finding strength in being vulnerable, and connecting in being vulnerable. And I hope that other people can connect too. Yeah.
I think the saying is the opposite of addiction is connection.
Yeah.
Oh,
love that.
This.
Thank you so much, Katie.
Thanks, Katie.
Having you on.
We love ya.
Good on ya.
This podcast is proudly produced by our audio engineer, music extraordinaire, Eric Ladd. We love you, Eric.